Kyosho Masters 2025. If you guys want to know more about this race, I did talk to Ryan Lutz about it because he did get to go over there. I know a lot of people saw it and they were like, "Oh, that's not an off-road track," because it was no dirt. It was AstroTurf, wooden planks, and pavers. But you know what, Max? When I've watched, I've seen the Kyosho Masters go on for the 25 years because it's the 25th iteration of it. And I when I think Euro tracks, this is a Euro track to me. AstroTurf, wood sections, no crazy jumps. I think it had some berms, maybe uh pavers. Okay, it wasn't no dirt, but when I think of European style tracks like from the 80s and 90s, sorry, 90s and early 2000s, this is what I think of. And if you want to know more about that, Ryan, let's talk about it, his experience on it and whatnot. But I like it. Like, as much as I am not the biggest Kyosho fan, even though I made a video about him, which is doing pretty good. Lefty Simple Thoughts. From a simple brain come simple thoughts. And check it out, Kyosho, the resurgence. It's doing pretty good actually. And it hurt my RC soul to make that video because I'm a Mugen guy through and through from the beginning. But that race was held May 30th to June 1st at the Robot Club 94. What a name. The Robot Club 94. Um, Briefly, JQ's been to this race twice. He went again. So this is a race he's always wanted to do because JQ is the ultimate Kyosho fanboy.
He is.
Ultimate.
He is. I know he is.
So,
I don't think he actually ever even raced with Kyosho, but for some reason he's always been a big fan. I think he's just a fan of Kanai. A lot of people are.
he is. But we did some digging and they did release the. Do you want to bring out the video of the MP11? I mean the MP11 prototype. I love how Kyosho did this. They did it at their big race with all the Kyosho guys around there, and you saw that picture of everybody's phone out. I'm so surprised that wasn't made into a meme. I'm so surprised that wasn't made into a meme. I was waiting.
Well, yeah. I mean,
But
I bet people are gonna make memes of that, but
it was. I thought it was
it's
cool.
a great template.
I thought it was a great template, but I thought it was cool.
Yeah,
Let's
sure.
talk about some of the changes on the MP11.
Yeah, actually, let me just bring it up. This one I have a bit more because obviously I had time to look at this beforehand, so I can tell about this one. The associated, I kind of just taking my first looks in. So on the front end, at least to the eye, this one is kind of unchanged. So sure, they have the new um higher kingpin inclination. But they've already had that at the Worlds end of last year. So front end is rather unchanged. So they continue with what they've been developing. So of course they've just recently went to the KPI. So they used to do that in the MP777, then MP9 they went to 0 KPI, and all the way from the first MP9 up until I think it was last year, they ran with 0 KPI, and then they came out with these. So more KPI in the front. What they said, it was to be better on these, what they call European style tracks. I don't know if that's the only benefit of it. I never really was a fan of it, but either way, they've kind of incorporated that to their setup. And the reason why I held on to this for so long is because I think this is actually the reason why they switched the rear end as well. So in the front, they have this higher KPI. And for the first time ever, well, I'm not going to say ever, but for the first time since I remember, Kyosho has gone to a long rear arm with a low offset rear hub. I'm pretty sure the offset is negative. It's hard to tell from these pictures. I still think it's sort of similar to what S-Works has. Um, So still negative offset, um, but significantly less. So the old Kyosho, it has had a short arm and a lot of offset in the rear, which makes the rear end really planted. A lot of grip, um, a lot of, especially on power, a lot of balance on the car. And on top of that, it's actually pretty good over bumps. The big downside for having a high offset in the rear is just when it's higher grip, it's going to be much more difficult to get that natural rotation out of the car. That's why they initially went to the wide rear pivot, and I think why now they realize that 99% of these tracks are high grip, high speed. You need that corner speed. You need that natural rotation, and they tried this. Um, and I think they could have done it with the old car, but it would have been very specific on setup. So now they've kind of accepted basically that Mugen won in a way, because back in the day, it was Kyosho had a lot of offset, zero KPI, and Mugen had kingpin inclination, and then they had that. They even had actually positive offset, and now they still hold on to the C hub, but they're getting close there. Other updates are the radio tray. I have to say I'm not that big of a fan of the radio tray, but I do like the rear chassis stiffener. So they have this centered chassis stiffener on the gearbox. One big concern I have is when you go to this um, low offset rear hub, the big issue is that um, you kind of need to gain more, support for the rear, because the high offset naturally stiffens it, and you still want the car to have the grip initially, but then also give you support. And in my opinion, and by looking at the cars in the market, the best way to do that is to lean in the rear shocks, which they haven't done. And it's going to be interesting to see if they can actually make this work like this, because that's going to be a big thing for these guys to have that progression in the rear end through the suspension, to make the rear end rotate but still be good initially, which is kind of how Mugen Associated, even HP, all these cars, Mayako, for example, are. Um, so that's something I don't know if they made a conscious choice or if this is something they have overlooked. So something to look forward to if they release a new rear shock tower leaning in the rear shocks. Other than that, I think it looks like a pretty ready package. Um yeah, radio tray, not that big of a fan. Rear shocks, angle progression still a question mark. Other than that, I think I spoke with Yukin and like when this came out, and I said that this is basically what they should have done in 2020, well, let's say 2018, when they let go Boots and Tebow and all of these guys. This is what they should have done then, but they was maybe a bit stubborn. They was having financial trouble, kind of reinventing themselves. But they're doing it now. They have
Mhm.
they have all these fast drivers from Europe as well. It's really interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, and I talked about this, with in my video, and then I talked about Ryan with this, which will be coming out next week. I think the and we talked about it. I was like, yeah, they stopped relying on that legacy, right? We're the
Yeah,
8-time world champions. We're the best. No, that probably worked 10, 15 years ago, right?
yeah,
But people have come into RC that don't even know the legacy of Kyosho, right? And there's so many other brands on the market now. So, and the biggest thing here was, from what I can gather, is that yes, Kanai was involved in this, right? So a lot of people don't understand that. I kind of wanted to get, yeah, I got to talk about it because I talked about it in the video, but Kanai doesn't directly work for Kyosho. He works for Auto Model Racing, which is a company that does the designing and promotion of the Kyosho. I don't know if they do all the products, but definitely the racing side of things, you know? And from what I can gather, and when I talked to Ryan her on the interview, basically this is the first time that Kyosho has it wasn't in this time where that was what Kanai said, right? Kanai, what he said, what it's pretty much what happened. That's how it's been. It was different this time, and they took feedback from the guys in USA from Ryan. They took feedback from Savoya as well to make it happen. And he was telling me that he thinks that when Kanai went to the Worlds last in 2024, 3, 2, sorry, 2022, when he went to the Worlds, that's when his eyes were kind of open to how far the platform was behind with corner speed and stuff like that. And I think this is great for Kyosho, right? And it was a lot of buzz around it because even though I may not be look, I have no this hatred towards Kyosho. My rivalry is a friendly rivalry from years and years ago. But I would hate to see Kyosho. I mean, we were thinking Kyosho was going to be out, and
Yeah.
when they signed Lutz, like out of racing, they got sold twice in the last 5 years. They got sold in 2018, and they got sold again in 2021. But they got taken over by a bank in 2018, and then they got sold to a company that doesn't even do RC. So we thought like this has got to be the end of it, right? But they have successfully done what they needed to do to carve a niche out for themselves again. And I know in Europe and other parts of the world, Kyosho is still a popular choice. But in my travels going to the USA over the last few years, prior to even when before Lutz came on, it was you saw them very few and far between. You went from a car that dominated the scene to seeing them here and there. Since Lutz has come on, in the last couple years, 3 years, so he came on in 2025, and now they got Bump on board. They got Savoya over there. They got Berton, Baruffolo, those guys. We're seeing, is it like going to be as popular as what it once was? No, but I'm starting to see more Kyoshos showing up, local races, local tracks and stuff like that. I'm starting to see more at races that I go to. So yes, they have successfully carved out a niche for themselves in a time, and it's very hard to do. They haven't completely reinvented themselves, but they rebranded themselves, and I thought it was great. You know, you that legacy part you'll never lose. It's always going to be there, right? And some of the stuff that Kyosho done, I don't think we're ever going to see that happen again. I mean, there could possibly be an 8-time world champion. I mean, Associates got
I
3.
mean,
You
yeah.
know? Quite possibly could have 4 next year. So it could be, right? But what they done and some of the domination that they had over the time, it's it was impressive, but it got old, right? And you couldn't rely on that anymore. Well, we were this, we were that. Yeah, but you did that. Yeah, I used to be skinny, but now I'm fat. So, like, what does it matter? you know, I was never
You
skinny,
know
but I
that
used to be in a better shape than this. And now I'm fat. So what happened before? I used to have a black beard, but it's gone now. It's all gray. So people people like me will remember the legacy. People like you, because you're young and you was around and you was exposed to Kyosho and all that stuff. But there's people that come into RC that don't even know. Like they don't see a Kyosho, they see a
yeah,
Hector, they
yeah.
see a Techno, they see that. So I think it's good of them. And the move to Texas, I go into more of this and in my video, and I think we both agree that on what I said that they successfully kind of rebranded themselves. And it's good to see them in there because there's going to be some brands that go away. It has to go away. There's too many out there, right? So they're doing what they need to do to still stay relevant and make sales. Of course, Kyosho has all the bashing stuff and all that stuff that makes them their money. So I get it. And kudos to them. I once again give them their flowers. And that took a lot from me. But as for that race, actually, Berton won, Baruffolo came second, and Filong came third. And our good friend JQ, who unretired, finishes seventh.
Yeah. One more thing I do want to say about the new car is I still haven't fully given up on the old Kyosho. So the MP11 9 TKI
That's
3. Like
old, old. They have a 10 in between there,
I
Max. There is
know,
a
I
10.
know, I know, but that's my point here. That I'm I'm like quite confident that you could make the MP9 TKI 3 a competitive car in today's environment if you knew what you was doing and took into account like you know the new tracks and how you need to approach it, diffs, all this stuff. I still think that's possible. I think that chassis was really good. I think its strong point definitely was when tracks got rough, when they were inconsistent, um, and so on. And definitely lower grip is its benefit. But when it's inconsistent in any way, that car was good. But I do think there is potential still, even in the modern era. But you know, I think we can safely say that Kyosho is now gone. Like that car is fully like MP10. That was still close. It was basically just a wider rear pivot,
I'll tell you
and
what.
but
Oh,
this one
sorry.
is
Go ahead.
yeah yeah no no. But this one is it's not. We can hold a silent moment for that. The most dominant car in history, which is the let's say MP777, MP9, that sort of geometry.
You know what? I give them, like I said, I give them their flowers. They're doing a better job than some other company that we won't talk about that we cannot that this we are not allowed to talk about on this podcast. So
Yeah.
we're just
I mean, they have 2 world championships, so they're doing pretty good. No, actually 3. They
three.
have 3 too. Yeah.
They have three. They have three. All right. Something else that popped up on my feed